morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Gub here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health. On this your Wednesday morning, rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, I'm looking at a topic: natural hygienic diet, drug stimulant, meat-free lifestyle. So, natural hygienic diet, drug stimulant free, meat free diet. So, welcome again. Hopefully, you have the blessing that rest and ready to take on the challenges of this day. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of your word, for the blessings, your Lord, of knowing thee, the only true God. May you be with us, dear Father, as we contemplate these things for our health and for our well being. May you bless us, bless our minds for Christ's sake. Amen. So, our topic again is natural hygienic diet, drug stimulant, meat free lifestyle. And so, natural diet and natural remedies used to be something relegated to outliers in society. Today, it is more mainstream and a larger part of the health mix of society. So that's what we've seen. Now, some of this is not because people per se just want to be healthier. Some of it is the aim to run away from suffering and pain, which is a good thing. It's a good motivator, right? Pain is a good motivator. Not a good thing to experience the pain, but it is a motivator. It makes us want to do things and do it right. We have seen all the suffering in the last probably 100 years. A lot of it is cataloged, documented for you to watch and see what happened. And so as something around the turn of the century, early 1900, people kind of moved away from natural and they embraced fully all the chemicals that was flooding the world. And today still, a majority of the society live a very chemical-based lifestyle. And this is really the difference. It's a chemical-based lifestyle. So when we talk about drugs, stimulants, meat, a lot of this, even the industrialization of meat, is because of antibiotics, penicillin. And so you can grow the animals in massive buildings and you can keep them healthy, more or less, or keep them alive by pumping them with a lot of antibiotics. And they can be filled up to their hosts. And they'll be all right, so to speak. So we here believe in a natural remedies, natural diet. And it used to be something that is more stoners, people who are hippies, people who are somewhat religious for religious reason, like Indians, Seventh-day Adventists, that would push this type of thing and believe in that type of thing. And even that in those environments, it could be very difficult. So as I say, over the years, things like smoking has become less popular and in vogue because of the devastating effect it has on the lungs and other parts of the bodies with cancer. Drinking alcohol is still something in vogue, but it is something that causes a lot of pain and suffering in our society, both socially and because of various different accidents and the devastating effect on the body. It's an antioxidant. It's an oxidant. It damages the system. The concept of now meat replacement, vegan diet has become a bigger thing. Gluten-free, GMO-free, genetically modified, free organisms, so we can eat more natural, locally grown. Is another movement. Seasonal food, not a movement. So all these things are bringing to bomb for various different reasons. Some of the reasons because you have so much damage to the environment, damage to the animals, damage to the human being more so because we look out for number one. And when one suffer, one it tend to want to be able to. Some people want to fix it. Some people continue, and I think that's probably the biggest reason. It's the suffering that human beings go through, and they look for alternatives. And because of that, you have a lot of these movements. If you see what's going on with coronavirus, which I'll talk about in the end, is what I'm going to talk about in the end is this idea of how, at least for now in the summer, because the winter is still coming. But in the summer, we notice the coronavirus, it has still a high transmission rate because people are out now. They're out about. It's more motivation to be out because it's hot. And the death rate is slowly going up again. but not to the exponential rate in comparison to the amount of infections. Because I believe, again, the warmth, I believe the fresh air, the sunlight makes it not as potent. The winter is rough to suffer through. But if you notice there that what it is that more and more people are reporting that they're having a disease for longer than 60 days, longer than 90 days, and they're suffering serious conditions, and they're even doing lung transplants on people because the lungs is totally destroyed by the disease. So there's this long-term effect. And this is part of the narrative I get from the Bible, that, the more sin increase, the more wickedness, the more the lifestyle become destructive, is the more people have long-term sicknesses. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the end. So that's one of the predictive understanding we get from the Bible when it comes on to health. And this is one of the things we fight to ward off. We want to live a life, and we know in life we will experience some pain, but we don't want to be living where we're going through 10, 20 years of just suffering day in, day out. So that's why we believe in natural, and that's why natural, I believe, is more on the rise, not because people just want to be natural per se. Human beings tend to kind of go barbaric, sad to say, and bloodlust, and literally bloodlust, even eating the animals' flesh with blood oozing out of it. That's normally we don't go up, we go down because of sin. But because of pain and suffering, we see a movement where people are trying to be healthier. So I'm amazed at the lifestyle of the righteous and the current issues in the world as laid out by the Bible and Spirit of Prophecy. So you read some things in the Bible, I'm going to share some of that with you. And I can call it, I could say, look, based upon this, I believe this is what will happen. So beliefs of things fought over or seem impossible to accept are normal in the lives of the righteous and even the world at large in our day. Now, again, why do I believe this is happening? I believe it's happening because, when you read the Bible teaches you a different story. So when you read the Bible, you read the Bible that the Bible says Adam and Eve were created, and they were created in a perfect world with perfect bodies. And as you read the narrative of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, you get this very clear picture that men start to become weaker, and they start to live shorter. Their length of years was not as long, and they start to become more susceptible to sin and disease as they started to eat meat. Meat became, according to Moses, became in vogue, and it dropped the years of man to 125, and then later on, it's dropped to 70. And if you look at it, many people who are big meat eaters, by the time they reach 70 years old, they're filled with so much decrepitness that, yeah, they're 70, but they're more bionic women and bionic men. They have so many parts that have been replaced. So you look at it, is there. This is the narrative of the Bible. You see, like you read the Old Testament, there's hardly any genetic diseases. Hardly any people who are born crippled or, born with certain blindness. By the time you come into the time of Christ, about 4,000 years, you have this massive explosion of mental problem and genetic diseases. Now, in our time, you still have the genetic diseases and mental problem. They've exploded even more so, but even more now what we have is lifestyle disease. So we would say about 85% of all the diseases that we're dealing with is something to do with our lifestyle. It's a deficiency, it's a bad diet, and then a smaller percentage are mainly genetics. Now, even many of what we call genetic disease, because somebody say, how could I get above 15%? 20 to 15% of disease are genetic. Because even diseases that we would normally classify as genetic, if you change a person's diet and lifestyle, disease go away. What they have now realized is that some of what we call genetic disease or weaknesses in the system and in certain different organs in the system is genetic, but the lifestyle is the trigger. So if you have a weak liver and you have a diet that destroys the liver will have liver disease, heart disease. And if somebody said they have the heart disease running the family, but everybody in the family is minimum 250 pounds. So the lifestyle is pulling and making that weakness become exacerbated. So that's why I say you find that most of the disease now we're facing is lifestyle disease. Why? Because the body's getting weaker. And what my grandparents, probably 10 generations going back, 400 years could suffer. I can't suffer. Can't handle it. It's just my system is not strong enough. And this is where we see now some of what we're seeing in society. Amazing. So much diseases that blows up. You can't even catalog them. It seems fast enough. The system is getting weaker. But evolutionists go tell the people foolishness and tell them, oh no, you're evolving. And for the last so many years, they've been teaching about evolution. And people to keep getting more decrepit. They get decrepit. They're getting more beaten up. And, 70 years and somebody look like they've been reincarnated, but not from a child. It's like almost like you have somebody, they live 70 years and then they got reincarnated as a 70-year-old person. They live double their life. They've been whipped, horse whipped and dragged and beaten. So this is what we're dealing with. So this is where natural comes in, because when we do natural, what we're doing is feeding the body powerful nutrients from the plants to restore the body, to heal the body, to build the body up, to feed the body. Things that they will never get fed in a diet, especially the regular standard of diet that is around the world or the world over. In Numbers chapter 12, verse 6. Numbers 12, verse 6. So all I'm talking about is prophetic. Prophetic wise, the Bible looking down the annals of history and said, this is going to be the result. This is cause and effect. Years of beat down. And here we're the end part of this beat down. And we're really seeing the end result of years and years, centuries and thousands of years of just beat down. And we're at the end of it. But yet, at the end of it now, which before I read my text, which is the powerful part about it. At the end of it, here we have a generation, unlike any other generation in the world, that is into exercise, gyms, personal gyms at home, supplements, various different chemicals that are from plants that can heal the body. So I'll look at it. The weakest generation is the generation that is the most into some of them. Some people they couldn't take a herb if it knocked them over the head. If it fall from a tree and drop on their head, they would never put it in the leaf in their mouth. But here's this generation that is doing this. Some of the generation, I should say. So notice here in Numbers 12, verse 6. And he said, hear now my word. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision. I will speak unto him in a dream. So this is part of the big narrative of the Bible, this concept of a prophet. There's always the church, the king, the world, whatever, and then there's the prophet. The prophet comes and he kind of guides the world along into what is best, based upon inspiration. And we take this seriously because we analyze the words of the prophet, starting with Moses, and we realize every time we look at something they say that even if it seems so different, it's proven right. I'm fascinated with this because I sometimes look at pictures of people who eat the standard American diet as an example, and they live the standard lifestyle, standard drugs and food and whatever, and you compare their age to somebody who's doing what we're talking about here, the natural hygienic diet and stimulant meat-free, drug-free lifestyle, and you can see the vast difference. It is amazing. We're talking about mental function, physical function, skin, blood, the whole 9 yards. Just far superior. And age for age, and especially when you start hitting the 40s, 50s, when the body start making serious changes. And you can see the difference. You can feel the difference. And you can look and see somebody in the 40s, 50s, and this is somebody now that start. In reality, you could call them grandparents, young grandparents. And you can see the difference. The diet and lifestyle is amazing. Noticing in 2 Peter 1, verse 21, the prophecy came not of old time by the will of men, but holy men of God spake, as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. So there's no private interpretation. And that's what's beautiful about seeing the blow up the plethora of information out there that I tend to like to just pull information when I'm talking about health from just straight up Wikipedia but probably number one, the National Institutes of Health. I want to pull it some many times from where the government, the American government, is putting out. Because sometimes when I pull it from there, I know people are surprised because they might think, you're pulling it from some herbalist. And I pull from herbalists. I have a lot of herbalist books that I read. But it's good to pull from all those sources, but to go straight, look, I'm going to pull right here from, this is what the government research have said. This is what your tax dollars are paying for. This is what the best scientists and doctors and stuff in the society that is paid for by the government is coming out. And this is what they say work. So one could understand this is not no private when we talk about health, it's not private interpreting, not my idea. It's just something I'm learning. I'm just sharing what I learn and what I'm more so even practicing. So somebody could hear me talking about something. I tried, and I know what it feels like in my body because I try it sometimes at high volumes to see what it does. So I can have an opinion, or I can say, wow, I need to take this on a daily basis. So the solutions we talk about here, this is not no hypothetical. It's not your doctor telling you try these drugs. This is somebody that tried it. So I know, and I'll go through the bad experience if it's bad, and I'll tell you. So we're not talking about hypotheticals. This is important. Somebody hear me talk about stuff like, look, we're talking about what we know. So solutions when the mainline system get corrupted. So remember, this is part of what we're talking about. So when we talk about alternatives, there is always a mainline system, and it does things a certain way. But you need to have options. Freedom is not really freedom if you have one choice, right? If that's not really a choice, that's just you're gonna do this or you do nothing. So we want to put out there a second opinion. We want to put out there, somebody say, I went to my doctor and they diagnosed this. I don't question that diagnosis. I just want to tell you that you have another option to do when it comes on to alternative. And you should have an option. The FDA and all the people say, oh, you shouldn't have an option because if it's not approved by the FDA, well, let them and their mad self continue with that stuff and that craziness. To me, it's just an option. It's just you have an alternative to try. And you should have the freedom to be able to try that. I know these people want to sue people and stuff like that. But I think it's just an alternative. If you're having a stomach upset and you're having vomiting problem, you need to know that there is research being done on things like ginger to deal with stomach problems. That's all. Now, that's giving us an option. So you can go with whatever your doctor tells you. Or it's important for you to know that other doctors and other scientists have researched and done clinical studies on ginger and in various different forms. And I want to be able to tell you that that's an option. And I want to tell you, look, this is your own main health system. The National Institute of Health has done the research. And they're saying it is effective and sometimes as effective as any drugs or more effective. So you need to know that. So you can say, well, this is my treatment option as me as a human being. Per se. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you there's an option. All right? So you have to make up your mind. You can say, I'm going to go the drug route, I'm going to go the natural route, or I'm going to do both. That's your choice. And so be it. So it's important for you to know that there's alternatives. But this is why we study these things. When we read of Genesis 1:29, Genesis 1:29 states something that one could read the Bible and, well, there's a lot of things you can read the Bible and miss because it's such a profound book. I used to say, and I still say, that there's things I read in the Bible that I know is truth, but I don't know why it's truth. Somebody said, well, it's not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. Listen, I know something is truth. It's a truth as there's a God and there's the sun will rise. I don't know why. Just like I don't know why the sun rises. I know what it does, but, like, why not two suns? Or, but then you could sort of answer that question, right? You see that? I ask you why it's not two suns. You could say, well, because at night we need to sleep. But why we need to sleep? And so forth and so on. And then that's how the mind investigate, right? So there are certain things that are truth in the Bible that you could read. If you're a skeptic or an infidel or a hater, you read it and you start to attack. But if your mind is saying, well, probably Moses is not an idiot, right? So probably you write something and it might sound like weird to me at first, but probably I need to think about it. I need to go investigate. You see, a skeptic and an infidel, they're just going to attack and they shut their mind down. They reject it because it doesn't line up with their thinking. So notice here what does Moses says that when God created Adam and Eve, he gave them a diet. So in the Garden of Eden on the earth before sin came in, we didn't kill animals and eat them. Nothing killed and eat. So notice then God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. So here meat can be translated food also. It is your food, your meat, what you eat. So notice here, this is where we're at now. Imagine Moses tried to direct Israel in his formative years to become plant-based in their diet, have a 100% plant-based diet. And they rebelled against it, and the Lord acquiesced and allowed them to eat clean animals only. So no pig and no shrimp and no centipede and no spiders and stuff like that. And pangolin, none of those things. So here, there's a plant-based diet. So we don't have no solid movement after this in the earth. So according to Moses, Adam and Eve had a plant-based diet. Sometime after the fall of sin, and sin entered, before Noah and the destruction of the antediluvian world, we believe plant animals became part of the diet. Then, after that, Moses tried to do a reformation to bring one whole country into a plant-based diet, and it failed. Then we have not until the turn of the century, coming out of the Dark Ages, we have people like Graham, which is famous for graham crackers, and other people like Ellen G. White, as my focus kind of this week, started to push this idea that, we probably need to go back to a plant-based diet as Adam and Eve. So you don't have, you see, we come all the way to the end of, coming towards the end of Earth history, as we believe we're near the end of Earth history, and the experiment with sin. And here we are now, we're talking about and becoming a main part of our discussion, the natural benefits, the health benefits, the environmental benefits of a plant-based diet. And this is fascinating. This is what I say is prophetic. Because here he says this was how man was created. Now the evolutionists say, well, we've been living for hundreds of millions of years and we used to eat, I guess we used to eat raw meat. But yet Adam said, no, we weren't created like that. And they've found mummies or carcasses, I don't know what you call them. And they show that they believe that human beings at one point were fruitarians. And according to Moses, this would be the reality. Why? Because in a garden, nothing dies, so everything you eat would be fruit. You pick the fruit, the plant doesn't die. Nothing dies of its own. So you see, this is where we're at. And so you hear somebody say this, and somebody is saying, oh, because to save the animals. We talk about we eat this way because it's better for the body. And remember, the way how the age was shortened is by meat. The more meat is the shorter the life. You can see kids dying of leukemia, and they don't even make it to 8. They get it mainly from their chicken. You avoid this leukemia-filled chicken and stuff like that. You just do so much better. Notice here in Genesis 3:18, thorns also and thistle shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. So when I read this, again, this is one of these texts I meditate upon a lot. After sin, everything had to become defensive. It's a struggle for life. This is where evolutionists see nature and they believe that evolution are the survival of the fittest because they can see this. They see thorns and thistle. Now Moses, before any evolutionist ever came about, wrote and said, this is what you're seeing. He's interpreting what you see in nature. He's telling you, this might confuse some people, but they look at nature and they see a survival. The beautiful rose as thorns so that it doesn't get destroyed. The beautiful orange trees as pricks I know what you call those spikes. And the trees tend to want to defend themselves. The various different trees has poisons that we drink as tea, as Tetley tea, and as coffee. But there's poisons in those plants. Why? Because they have to protect themselves from being destroyed. So thorns and thistles shall it bring forth, because sin makes us that we always at war. Nations have to spend a percentage of their budget. Individuals have to think about either spending personal percentage of their budget or pay for the police department to defend them from predators. This is how we live in this world. Animals, if you look at the birds, the bees, everything, they always act as if they're frightened because somebody's going to eat them. I was talking to a young lady, me and tomorrow was talking to a young lady over the weekend, and she said that it's easier to pet than have a bird, because she had a bird, like I think it was a parrot or something. And she had a bird, and we were talking to her about how you take care of that bird and pet it. And she said, well, the birds that are not predator birds are harder to pet because the non-predator birds are more frightened, but the predator birds are normally calmer. I think that's what she said, something like that. So they're easier to pet because they're not always afraid. They're more attacking. They're not afraid to be attacked. So they're more easy to calm down. Fascinating stuff. But thorns and thistles, you see, I can just see it, just random conversations, and then this text come back to my mind. There's always a threat of being attacked. And notice here, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. So when you hear me, and if you say, if I say to somebody, about a plant-based diet, I'm not just talking about, the food, let your food be your medicine be your food. I'm beyond even that. I'm talking about the herb. You're just taking it not from herb for any food business. You're taking it straight as medicine. Because we have sin and we have weakness and we have disease and we need healing, and there are plants of the healing. So we receive of these plants and receive of this. And so we are taking not just the absence of a natural and hygienic diet. So we're just having very clean food. So we have no stimulant, no meat. We have no drugs in our systems, and no alcohol. But we also partaking of things that's going to heal us, because we understand we need healing. And you see the difference, because the difference is when you concentrate and partake in this way, when you remove from your diet the dangerous things, and then you add to yourself the things that are healing. What you see month in, month out, you see year in, year out, is an increase in healing in your body, because you're feeding the body plus you're healing the body. So again, this is not just talking about eating some collard greens and kale. That's would be the principle of let your food be your medicine be your food. The collard greens, the kale, has powerful healing for your skin. The green leafy vegetables have silica that will put collagen in your skin, so your skin look more youthful and supple. But then you go ahead and you make another step. You take something like a horsetail. Horsetail is probably the highest concentrated of natural silica. So you really now not take this, not your food now. You're just taking it straight as herbs for healing. It's not making your food be a medicine. This is just straight up medicine. And then you take it, and a month, 2, 3, 4 months later, 6 months later, a year later, you look at your nails, you look at your hair, you look at your skin, and you look young, youthful, it's growing, it's vibrant, it's luscious, if you're talking about your hair. This is a total different experience that we're talking about here. And so when we talk about the lifestyle of the righteous, we're talking about the lifestyle that is more vibrant, because we understand we going along with what the Bible is saying, and we mat our life there. Now, what's the opposite? The opposite now, which is the real deal, is you look at a person who is an evolutionist now. So they believe the opposite from us. They believe that they were evolved. They came from a primordial soup. They have a common ancestors with chimps and pigs. And they are supposed to be eating a paleo diet. So they're supposed to be cavemen. They believe in hunter-gathering. They believe in savagery, where you're your primary predator, and you prey on wild animals and stuff like that. All right, okay, so what's the result? The person who's into that diet, you'll see the result long term. You see a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And you see the result of that. While when the Bible tells us about Adam, it says he wasn't a hunter gatherer. He was a gardener. He was a person that take care of a garden. He was a gardener. He wasn't hunting and no gathering nothing. He was just gathering. He was just picking stuff and eating it. He was a farmer. He had to arrange. If you look at Noah, Noah was a farmer. There was no hunting, gathering, running out and being wild and crazy. So the results when you practice this is different. It's a different philosophy. And it's apples to apples. You just have to do a comparison. You know, you got to bring me a person that's my age that is doing that evolutionary lifestyle and diet. And then we just compare what, we do the blood test, we do this, the observation, we do the memory test, the sharpness of mind, and then we see how they're doing. Apples for apples, mano in mano, and woman in womano. We just see how it goes. And that to me is what it is. The proof is in the tasting of the pudding, in drinking the smoothies, and drinking the milkshake, literal. This is how you know. And this is to me what is the beauty of it. It's the value of it can't be really seen until it's lived out. So bring me a person who eat 100% meat. They're just hunting and gathering, and they probably just gather some berries, and they have a Atkins diet, and then you just compare apples to apples. Let's see the various different inflammatory markers, how the heart doing, how the liver doing, the kidney doing, how the skin doing, how the mental state doing, how the amount of polyps in their colon. We just look at it and then you see and you can compare. And when you do that comparison, then that's scientific. That is empirical. That is the numbers never lie. And that's what we're talking about here. That's the difference. It's like me saying yesterday, I was talking about the importance of independent church. It's let's make it scientific. Let's compare an independent church and who's been run according to the Bible and Spirit of Prophecy, and the pastor working according to the Bible, Spirit, and Prophecy, and bring me a mainline church and let's compare. Let's make it empirical. Let's test the members. Let's see who is living up to certain things, who is preaching certain things, doing certain things, and what's the result? What's the result in the family life, the church life, the personal life? Let's make it happen. Yeah, we're not worried for that. We don't worry about that microscope or that telescope, because we believe that truth never dies and truth is alive. And we're not just here just talking stuff. We're talking about we live in it. We're not just here pointing out. That's why you notice we don't spend too much time. I don't spend too much time talking about what they're doing or when they fail. And I don't even care less. I'm talking about what we're doing. So because the results is what it is. It's results based. You can talk all day long. It's the results that I'm experiencing and you're experiencing when you practice this. And then let's talk about the people who are evolutionists, who believe that they need to hunt and kill, and I don't know what they're hunting. And even if they hunt, they say, oh, we go in the field and we hunt deers. We don't eat those fake meats from Tyson Food and Conagra and all that. Sure, let's do it. You go out there and go hunt your deer and your wild pheasants and your, turkey and whatever else you want to shoot and hunt. And let's see how long before you hit 50, 40s, and you start being forgetful because you're eating your mad deer disease and all of the kind of weird disease that these deers have. They look so mangy. And let me see how the hunter-gathering go, right? So this is what we're talking about. Is that some philosophy. See, most religion, they're ceremonial. Fake religion is always ceremonial. It has nothing to do with the day-to-day life. It is a ceremonial thing. It doesn't affect your personal life, your family life. It doesn't affect anything other than you go to church to worship. You go to any of these churches. I don't care if they're black, white, Hispanic, whatever. They're just ceremonial, most of them. They just go there to sing, and it's a praise the Lord, and they get in the spirit, and they walk out, and they walk out as devils. They're probably devils while they were there making noise. But we're talking about religion as we do it, as being practical. It is what the life brings forth. The religion is just there to motivate you to go ahead this weekend, knock the ball out of the park. So what we're doing here, we want to harness the healing powers of, like the sunlight. The more we study, the more we understand that there's so much healing powers in the sunlight. And so you want to expose your body to the sunlight. But you don't stop there. You know that there's a various different spectrum within the sunlight. And so now men have harnessed this literally. And we most of the time we're just going out there and buying stuff. So I encourage you, buy these things. If in the winter, when the winter comes, you feel sad, then there's a season affect disorder light. You buy the SAD light, the SAD light. And it's apples for apples. You try it, you be like, wow, this really works. So you harnessing. This is what men has done. There's UV in the light. So you use UV as a disinfectant. And so I use UV on my water treatment system in my house. After the water has been filtered, then it's treated with UV. Just in case any bacteria, that's what it does. We use UV in our filters, and that's what we do. And we harness the power of that UV to kill any pathogens, right? So this is what the sunlight do. As I say, we expose our bodies to the sunlight so we can get ourselves nice and burnt, and then not to destroy our skin, and then we convert that to vitamin D3, and so we get some natural vitamin. Now, one of the things to do that again they have looked upon, and you have to consider this before you go fry yourself in the sun, is that what they've shown is that when you have high antioxidant, your body starts to behave similar to the plants. So if you look at a tree, it has that green leaf. The green leaf is burnt all day long in the sun and it does not destroy it. Why? Because the antioxidant in the leaf. So what they have shown, and you have to look up on it and then make that decision yourself, is that when you get all the high antioxidant in your skin from like carrots and green leafy vegetables and stuff, that the you can be longer in the sun and have more protection, from the rays of the sun, so you can get more vitamin D production. And this you have to test. There's a certain point you can feel that you're getting burned, or you go with the recommended dosage that the FDA put out. And look, I shouldn't be there too long beyond a certain point. Or if you feel like you're getting burned, you get out. But you'll find that your skin will take it better when you have high amounts of antioxidants in your body, and you can even start seeing it on your skin. That's a protective layer. We work almost like the trees. So that's just one thing we do. So we harness that. So notice here, this is beyond letting your food be a medicine. I love that statement. Beautiful statement. But I'm saying here we go beyond that, because again, there's some people that just want to eat healthy food. Yeah, we beyond that. We're not just doing that. We're doing things that are way beyond that. So when we harness the beauty of the sun, we're not just talking about just going out there and getting some sunlight. We're beyond that. Technology has brought us way beyond that. We can buy things. As I say, even in my home, I have 2 different lights that has 2 different rays of the spectrum to do 2 different things to the skin. So it's we and not this SAD light. That's another light. I'm talking about there's other lights that you can buy for various different things that they try to harness different factors. So we have the UV, we have the SCD, and we have other lights for other skin afflictions. That is amazing. Just various different, just short rays or bands of the spectrum affect us different. So this is not food be a medicine. That's good, but the health message has progressed beyond that. Fragrant trees and flowers, so the pine, the eucalyptus, the peppermint, all these different fragrant plants, we harness the power of them also for healing. So again, this is beyond that, beyond what we're saying, make your food be a medicine. It is not just eating a plate of food and say, oh yeah, I'm healthy. No, we're beyond that. We harness that power. So you can go in nature, you go for a walk. Now today, I'm not planning to go for a walk. I didn't go yesterday, and I didn't go Monday, went Sunday. But I still can harness the potency of these trees. And instead of while others are, again, we can do a test, right? Where we can take people who smoke trees, and we can take people who do aromatherapy. And I'm sure there's ways to test their inflammatory process, their brain function, and show that the ones who do the aromatherapy and inhale the fragrance of the tree, the essence of the trees, the menthols, the peppermint, the various menthols from peppermint, the cajeput, the eucalyptus, those things, that their lungs, their inflammatory processes, their brain, just doing better. You see what I'm saying? So this is harnessing, using in your home instead of using certain type of air fresheners or a certain type of thing to put scent in your home. You use various different things like cinnamon, which was always one of the fragrance that are used in the Bible, boswellia, frankincense, myrrh, the rind of orange, lemon, all these things. And remember, they're adding flavor, scent, but they're also adding healing because they're antioxidant. So very important, so we are harnessing all of that. We are harnessing the minerals from seawater, from mineral rich spring water, and we partake of those. We partake of it just for hydration. We partake it for supplement, because we are beings that need mineral. We sweat mineral out. We sweat seawater. I mean, literally identical seawater we sweat out. So, I always tell people, if I go to a clean sea, I think it's clean. Most of the seas are so polluted. I'll literally take a few gulps. I've been places where the water is coming from spring from the mountain out in the middle of nowhere, like a jungle, a bush. And the water is, you can see how rich the mineral. And you swim in it and it's beautiful, it's fresh. It's like you could drink it, and I take some gulps. Fresh as ever. Unbelievable, because what it does to body is giving you body the best minerals that are not tainted with industrial chemicals. So you're harnessing, right? So it's a natural hygienic diet that is stimulant free and drug free and meat free and all that. And it's nutrient rich. It's healing rich. You're adding healing to your body that you're not going to get from your diet. In other words, if I eat a meal and my meal consists of, some carrots and, sweet corn and rice and some soy and some whatever, and I eat that, I'm getting some healing. The diet is good, it's clean, it's plant-based, it's hygienic. But what I just said to you there, right, is beyond that. So we're adding to that, and we're adding now healing, hygienic, free of stuff, but it's a healing diet, a lifestyle, right? And we're taking it to the next level. You get that, right? And in the future, I'm going to really try to double down on this idea here, because I want you to get it, because I have to get it too, right? I have to live it. And as I live it, I want to share it with you. And the more I live it and the more I share it, is the more potent it become to me, because this is like next level. It's one thing when you get up and, as I say, you eat healthy, you avoid certain things, but it's another thing when you're eating and you're like, oh no, I'm gonna wrap this rice in some seaweed, and you just make a sushi, but that seaweed has certain nutrients that is gonna feed your thyroid. So now you're eating with a level of understanding, but before you do that, you take some herbs. So you're healing the body, but you're doing it on a daily basis. And so the results are going to be profound. It's just, you're not going to get the same results that a person that's out there. Forget about a person that's eating a standard American diet. We beyond that now. There's no comparison. We need to even try to compare with somebody that, is look like they're hastening onto the grave. We're talking about comparing on somebody that's just a plant-based, 100% plant-based, in compared to somebody that's doing what I'm saying, and plus 100% plant-based. It's night and day. Proverbs 20 verse 1 said, wine is a mocker and strong drink is rage, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. So we get rid of these things out of our diet. But I want to encourage you to go beyond this, right? I want to encourage you that that's a start, but you got to get beyond that, where now you're getting the grape and you're juicing the grape. You're taking probably some grape seed extract. You're taking some resveratrol. You're doing beyond just avoiding certain things that are bad. You're partaking of things that are potent nutrients, and you're really partaking of it. We're beyond that point now, where you go eat an orange. We're talking about 6 orange a day, a dozen orange a day. Freshly squeezed or eaten fresh. You got to get beyond that point. You got to get beyond point. Now you're struggling about avoiding certain things. We're talking about going full head on into partaking of certain things. You can't eat one mango. We're beyond that. You don't go get up today and say, I'm going to eat a mango. That's going to be part of my fruits and vegetable mix. No, you're talking about in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 today. I remember one time I was in Jamaica for a little bit, and I was there, and I just decided every day I'm gonna eat at least a dozen mangoes, at least a dozen. Just you wouldn't do it less than a dozen a day. You're in the tropics, so you're gonna do less than a dozen. They weren't big mangoes. If they're big mangoes, you can't do a dozen. But it's just this is what I'm talking. And I make sure I bought them. I remember I was buying the mangoes that are like they call them country mangoes. That means they're not hybridized. They just grow natural. They just grow. They're wild crafted. They just go in the bush. They pick them, and you eat a dozen. They were so potent that they would burn my mouth. The potency of the chemicals in there would literally like you have a burning, not the level of pepper, but close to it, like a mild peppery flavor to it. Potent. Man, you eat that stuff. This is beyond. This is, I just say, man, a dozen minimum. And you just feel great. Your brain feel great. Your body feel great. You just, unless you do, you can't understand what I'm saying. Like I could tell you, but like, what is he talking about? Like, do it. Not the stuff that you buy that is hybridized and, grown for a certain taste. We're talking about stuff that, just potent stuff here, grown in nature. And you eat it, you feel different. You think different. It changed your whole being. Notice here, I'm going to read from Select Messages, Second Select Messages. This statement written over 100 years ago by Ellen G. White. And I want you to notice this statement. When drugs, Second Select Messages, page 451, if you have the app with her writings on it on your phone. When drugs are introduced into the system, for a time, they may seem to have a beneficial effect. So, for a time, this is why drugs are so, they call them deception. Because they make you feel like you're going to do better. For a time. A change may take place, but the disease is not cured. It will manifest itself in some other form. In nature's effort to expel the drugs from the system, intense suffering is sometimes caused the patient. The disease which the drug was given to cure may disappear, but only to reappear in a new form, such as skin diseases, ulcers, painful disease joints, and sometimes in a more dangerous and deadly form. The liver, heart, and brain are frequently affected by drugs, and often all these organs are burdened with disease. And the unfortunate subject, if they live, are invalids for life, wearily dragging out a miserable existence. So I pause there. We see this happen so often, right? People take some drugs and it's like, it whack them so bad that they come down with some disability and all kind of suffering and sickness, and it is so horrible to watch. Right? So this is why we want to do some natural stuff. We want to get some natural healing. We want to know the alternative. You don't have to practice it. You can take drugs all day long. But at least I want to be here to encourage you to go investigate something natural. I'm not talking about go take one capsule of something. You're joking. We're talking about taking some serious healing herbs. Change some lifestyle. So notice here, she says that it disappears. So somebody says, I'm healed. This is a miracle. But only to reappear in a new form. Because remember, the drug just changed the form and location. So now the disease, like Steven Johnson syndrome, if you read about that, you'll see what I'm talking about. The disease come back up on the skin. So now remember, she wrote this 100 years, something years ago. Now it's been proven by science. After years of observing patients, you hit the disease with this drug, and then the drug manifests itself on the skin, destroys it. Person come with ulcer because the disease ravages the stomach. And so many people, so many drugs, when the side effect is ulcer. All this is now tabulated. Before, this would be like, people like, what is she talking about? Painful disease joints. So people have all kind of arthritic condition where they have autoimmune problem with their joints, and the body immune system is attacking the joints, and the joint is inflamed. But I believe the inflammation is because of the drugs, and their body's trying to clear it. Can't clear that dangerous poison. And sometimes more dangerous and deadly forms. Oh, how much the poisonous drug costs. If it did not cost the life, it cost quite too much a future period of life. When these fine works which have been injured are to be relied upon to act a more important part in union with all the fine works of nature's machinery, they cannot readily and strongly perform their labor, and the whole system feels the lack. These organs, which should be in healthy condition, are enfeebled. The blood becomes impure. Nature keeps struggling, and the patient suffers with different ailments until there is a sudden breakdown in her effort, and death follows. There are more who die from the use of drugs than all who would have died of disease had nature been left to do our own work. So in health, we're always trying to help nature. We're not trying to stop nature and make the drug do the work. And so if you look at this, you see, as she says, where is the studies shown that so many people every year die because of these drugs? But yet, what we do, we just keep plowing along. Notice this is what prophecy, this is what statements that are powerful does. It's totally different from what the world out there is saying. Notice they're talking about coronavirus. They're not talking about healing it naturally. All they're talking about is we need to come up with a drug. We need to come up with a vaccine. All it's going to do is just make the disease more virulent because it's going to change the form and location of the disease. And the disease is just going to mutate and become more dangerous and murderous. And we will see, because we've seen with all the diseases, this one is just going to be a new one to add to the list of drugs that made it more mutant and dangerous. Notice here, flesh was never the best food. This is from Ministry of Healing now. I'm going to read. It's one of the books I play here on the radio at 4 o'clock. This is Ministry of Healing, page 313. It says, flesh was never the best food, but its use is now doubly objectionable since disease in animal is so rapidly increasing. Those who use flesh food little knows what they are eating, which is true. Often, if they could see the animals when living and know the quality of the meat they eat, they would turn from it with loathing. You know, you see some mangy animal and then somebody cut it up and feed it to you. It's crazy, right? You see some of these chickens and you see them diseased and all kind of stuff growing on them. And yeah, but you look at it, it's like all nicely packaged and frozen. You don't see that sickness. Anyhow, people are continually eating flesh that is filled with tuberculosis, which is proven by science, cancerous germs, which are proven by science. Tuberculosis, cancer, and other fatal diseases are thus communicated. People are eating their disease just like they eat coronavirus, and they've found coronavirus now on pig, chicken, fish, all these things. We transmit on the meat. The tissue of the swine swarm with parasites. Of the swine, God said, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. Deuteronomy 14:8, and God is still right. This command was given because swine's flesh is unfit for food. Swine are scavengers, and this is the only use they are intended to serve. That's it. Never under any circumstances was their flesh to be eaten by human beings. It is impossible for the flesh of any living creature to be wholesome when filth is its natural element and when it feeds upon every detestable thing. You know, if you drop dead, and the moment they'll eat you immediately. I was going to say they'll probably wait until you start marinating in maggots, and then they'll come and just clean you up. That's what a swine does. It's a pig. You see somebody's a pig, you know, they're terrible. It's a hog. You know, so this is something that no matter what you throw at it, they'll eat it. And then its natural element is filth. You get a garbage dump, you get a swamp, anything. Swine like, oh great, this is where I need to be. Right? You shouldn't eat it. Detestable. So when we look at this is where we want to be able to avoid all of this. We want to have a stimulant-free, drug-free, meat-free diet and want to have a healing, want to bring the healing on. In Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1 through 4, for the sake of time, I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read verse 3. It says, therefore shall the land mourn because of all the wickedness that's going on. The increase in wickedness, increase in diseases. Shall the land mourn, and everyone that dwelleth therein shall languish with the beast of the field and with the fowls of heaven. Yea, the fishes of the sea also shall be taken away. So I read this text because I wanted to point this out. Because one of the things that we do when we talk about prophecy and how the Bible states certain things that will happen in a certain time is this word here that languish, or the Bible says continual sickness in Deuteronomy. Is when you have a disease and you can't get rid of it, and it's just there and it's just causing you pain and suffering, and just long-term suffering. And what we see here is that almost all diseases, this is one of the things I always look for. And I watch like how disease mutate, change, and how it behaves. And how does it do this? Does it cause people to have long-term suffering? And so the moment I started seeing that coronavirus will cause a lot of people to die. But what it's doing is start causing people to have long-term illness where they're sick with it and they can't clear it from their body. And it's causing them to have this long, continual sickness or languishing. It's one of these prophetic things that somebody will say, why do you believe this is? Because, number one, I believe the Bible. I believe this is what it's saying is going to happen in the last days. So I look for these cues. I look for these clues. Am I seeing this? Where am I at in time, in history? What's going on? Why is it that diseases are doing this? And if you've been seeing the note, you've been noticing that people having long-term lung problem, mental problem because it eats up the brain, having long-term problems with various different heart, kidney, liver, muscle, because it eats the muscle up, it damages, gets in the whole body and just chomp away. Crazy stuff. And so there's no answer for this. And this is what I want to point out to you. So when we're dealing with diseases, we're not just talking about the absence of the drugs and the stimulant and the meat. We're talking about the presence of powerful antioxidants, powerful healing substance to deal with this. Heads up again to close. Wish I could talk more about this, but sometimes the thoughts and the technical problems. Notice here, Ephesians 6 verse 12 says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So like Adam and Eve, we want to be able to have communion with the plants, communion with nature, communion with nature's God. We want to understand, what are these plants here for? What is the sun there for? What is in the environment? What is the oxygen, the ozone? What are all they doing? What this plant does? Can it do anything for me? Can it heal me? We want to understand what these herbs do, what these trees do, what these food that we have do, so that we can have this communion, we can have this connectivity, so we can receive the healing that God wants us to receive spiritually and naturally, so we can be healthier in mind, body, and soul, in our spirit, in our attitudes. All of this is connected. All this is what God wants for you. I wish I had time to say more. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, thank you again for the love that you continue to bestow upon us, for the healing that you continue to bestow upon us, and the way that you guide us along. Pray that you may bless us, dear Lord, as we walk humble before thee. This is my prayer in Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow morning when we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.